Hello, everybody, and welcome into episode number 8 of the Vultures Row podcast. I am your host, Joey Bonsanti. Joined with me, as always, are my two co hosts, Pat Winters and Tony Vegas. Pat was away last week, some golf down in Florida. Pat, how we doing as we approach the draft this week?
Very excited, yeah. Spring break with the kids last week. Got some golfing, but a week off, week to refresh my mind for the draft, and I'm ready to unleash. Let's go. It's finally draft week, so it's like Christmas morning, for the draft. So I'm super excited.
Mr. Vegas?
This is going to be the longest week ever at work. The whole time I'm going to be, ripping mock drafts, hoping my coworkers don't listen to the podcast, hearing me say this. It's the best week of the year for us. It's like a live event of us acquiring 6 or 7 new players, which is freaking awesome. And I'm so fired up. I'm can't wait to get out of the Tyler Warren, Armand Membu conversation.
All for us not even to pick one of those players at 7, but we'll see what happens. And like you said, Pat, it is literally like Christmas week essentially, where we get 3 days of brand new players that the Jets will roll out in 2025. Hopefully a ton of starters. So we'll see on that front. But we're going to start today with a pick 7, pick 42 mock draft for the New York Jets, and then we'll run into some of the players that will go before the Jets at 7, do some bold predictions, and then wrap it up with like our absolute top of the list wish for our number 7. So let's start with Pat here since he was out last week. He needs to get some FaceTime here. Give us your 7 and 42 pick, and let's hear who you have going before the Jets in that 1 through 6 spot.
So before I start, I just feel like leading into this week, the top 6 to 7 picks have just been too consensus. So I just don't think it's going to shake out the way that history tells you it's not going to shake out the way that the box have shown, at least, past the first 4 picks, let's say. So I'm going to buck the trend a little bit. I'm going to say that Mason Graham is going to be there at 7, and they're going to take him. And I'm saying this purely on just reading the tea leaves, like I said. I just think that it's just too consensus right now. The top 3 picks seem pretty set in stone. But after that, picks 4, 5, and 6, I think it's not going to be Campbell, Graham, and Genty like in that order as it's been predicted. The Patriots could go in a bunch of different directions. I ultimately think they're going to end up with one of the tackles, probably Will Campbell. I think the shock pick in before the Jets is going to be Genty to the Jaguars. That feels like it's been building some steam the past week, few days, especially because the Raiders have put a ton of smoke out there that they really want Genty, and I just feel like it's too good to be true or too chalk. So if it goes Cam, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Genty to the Jags, I think the Raiders would take Membu in that scenario. And I think then it's a Mason Graham versus Tyler Warren argument. And I just think that the Jets would not pass up Graham in that scenario, and they would stick to their best player available on the board. And it goes back to the classic scenario of a prospect that was mocked so many times to them early in the process, then eventually gets overlooked so many times, and then eventually we just end up with that player, right? So it was almost like Olu last year, kind of like Garrett Wilson. And really in this case, I think it's just because he hasn't been there in any mocks for us. It's like almost like Leonard Williams, where he
I
was
was going
just
to say
never
that.
on any mock boards. Yeah. And then we ended up with him, and we were thrilled at the time. And we all know what happened with Leonard, but he actually wound up being a really great player. But man, if what I think, I really think that's going to happen. I'm not just saying that. And if that happens, that would change the whole dynamic of the defensive line. It would change the whole dynamic of the rest of the draft, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I just think the way it's shaking out right now, I just feels like Graham's going to be the pick for me. Then at 42, so now in this scenario, right, Jet fans are going to be up in arms, right? We need a pass catcher. We need a right tackle. It's been, the whole argument all off season has been Membu versus Warren or pass catcher, right? So fans are going to be in a tirade. So I think at 42, they'll simply just take the best wide receiver or pass catcher on the board, unless there's a slip in the offensive tackles, which I just don't expect due to supply and demand. So I think they'll go Jack Beck here from TCU, which would be a great compliment to Garrett Wilson. Great hands, great after the catch, great tracker of the deep ball. Um, One sleeper pick here, honestly, too, depending on how the wide receiver run goes, or maybe in a trade down from 42, is Kyle Williams from Washington State. I just feel like this is a classic example of a guy that general managers are higher on than analysts, maybe, and everybody's saying, oh, he'd be a great pick in round 3, great pick in round 3. He's not going to be a third round pick. So, and he could be that real deep threat. Um, that maybe like that Jameson Williams. I'm not saying he's Jameson Williams, but that type of element to the offense. When you watch his tape, he's very dynamic with the ball in his hands, and he's a real deep ball threat. And the team sorely needs that. So I think it's going to go Graham pass catch and then pass catcher at 42. I'll stick with Beck because I think he'll probably be there. Maybe Trey Harris, maybe Kyle Williams, one of those guys.
Very interesting stuff. I'm not going to lie. I'm not sure how I feel about the Mason Graham thing. I'll save it till my wish list at number 7, but we'll move it over to Tony. Tony, what are you thinking on this front?
Yeah, Mason Graham would be an interesting one. He's a great prospect. I think it needs to be offense, and that's why I went with Armand Membu at pick 7. I think it's going to be pretty chalky. I think it's going to go Ward, Hunter, Carter, Campbell, Mason Graham, Genty goes to the Raiders, and then that leaves us, Armand Membu, our right tackle, sitting in our laps. It's just too big of a hole to wait until round 2. And you never know what's gonna be there in the later rounds, especially with offensive linemen. It feels like you just have to take one, pretty early. So I don't really need to do a breakdown of him. I think we've talked about Armand Membu enough on this podcast. He'd be, he's been my number 1 option for a while. Obviously, Tyler Warren would be left in that situation. I think if it comes down to those two, it's going to be Membu. I just think there's more receiving options in round 2. Which is why I took Jaden Higgins in round 2 in this 742 mock draft. He might go earlier, but I've run enough PFF mock drafts, and he's been there in a good amount of them to the point where I'm comfortable mocking him to the Jets. I think it would be a slam dunk. He would slide right next to Garrett Wilson. He's 6'5". He kind of has that basketball skill set. He can go up and get it. They need that. And, they have a few big receivers on the roster. Kyle Williams is a really good point, Pat. I really like that pick as well. If he's there, and they take him, I wouldn't be mad at all. His play speed's insane. And I completely agree with you. He's not going to be a 3rd-round pick. He's definitely going to go in round 2. So those are the 2 guys I would keep an eye on. If Jaden Higgins is there, you take him and you don't look back. You get your starting right tackle. You get a pass catcher. And I would be really, really happy with this draft, and it's probably my preferred outcome.
So excited for when Membu and Warren are there at 7, and they pick whichever one, and everyone's going nuts on Twitter. But
you got to prepare for both.
It's just we've been prepped for this 50-50 Warren Membu thing. It would be just so Jets if they just don't get one of those players. At this point, it just feels too Jets for them to get one of these guys at this point.
Just remember the organization that's picking at 7. Everyone, just remember the history. Remember how they usually go. It's not usually how we all want it to go, especially as we head into rounds 2 and 3 as well. So,
and that's the mystery of this draft is that it's a totally new regime, and we just have no idea what their philosophies are. They could look at things completely different than the media and how we've been looking at things. So
that's why I'm the most excited about this. We have no freaking idea what's going to happen, and it's going to be awesome. We're really going to see where they want to take the roster moving forward. And I think Membu's the right pick long term. If he's there, you could build in the 2nd draft that they have. That's just why I think they're going to go in that direction. But if he goes at 6 to the Raiders, then I would think it'd be Warren probably.
So that's a good segue into my little mock draft here. I have Membu going at number 7. I'll read the 6 picks before. I have Ward. I have Carter going at 2. I have Hunter going at 3. Campbell at 4 to the Patriots. Mason Graham, Genty, and then Membu at 7 to us. I see where Pat's going with the Genty thing. I'd be really surprised if Jacksonville did that. I kind of agree with Tony. It feels very chalky within this area, but we'll see what happens on draft night. 42, I think the Jets go in a different direction than a lot of people think that they're going to go. I think they go Tyleik Williams from Ohio State.
That'd be great.
You sure up that defensive line there with Quinnen Williams. They get some offense, they get some defense within the first 2 rounds, and then potentially go save the pass catching route until round 3 or 4. So that's kind of I think where the direction goes. I don't think there's going to be any sort of shock at 7, and I really do think it's probably going to be Membu if Warren is there as well. I kind of agree with Tony on that front, especially with Glenn's mantra, where he comes from with Detroit. And you could argue that, Laporta, but I just think it's trenches with Glenn right now.
I mean, that's 600.
That would be the ideal scenario. like for me. Like Tyreek, I don't think he's going to be there at 42. But man, he would be a great pick. And you could see now with all the top 30 visits that they are looking at D-line in that, if you read between the tea leaves of their top 30 visits, they're looking at these guys that might fall to them at 42, like the guy from Toledo. Who else? Derek Harmon.
Yep.
There's a lot of defensive linemen that they've been looking at. So I feel like, to your point, 42 might be the sweet spot for them for defensive line if, the off chance that Mason Graham is at 7. But
I think the defensive tackle, I think they're going to wait. I think you can get guys in round 4 and 5. Like Jamari Caldwell would be an awesome pick in round. I've seen him in mock drafts at round 4. There's a few guys. It's a really deep class. So if they
Alfred
get Tyleik
Collins.
Williams, Alfred Collins. If they get Tyleik Williams though at 42, you're adding 600 pounds worth of human being to the front 7 and offensive line. Operation Get Fat. I mean, it's underway. So I would not be upset at that either. There's a bunch of different ways they can go.
So we offered a pretty wide variety, I think, of options there between the 7 and 42 pick. Let's get into some fun stuff here. Let's do some bold predictions. I started with Pat, so here I'm going to start with Tony. We're going to do one Jets bold prediction, one non-Jets bold prediction. Tony, let's start with you. What do you think is a bold prediction that we could see from the New York Jets heading into this draft?
Well, one bold prediction I could have made is all 3 of us did not select Tyler Warren at 7, which I think is a rarity. That's pretty insane.
Ironic.
That's crazy. He's probably the favorite to be the pick right now. But you know what? We talk enough. I think we get in each other's heads and whatever. But my bold prediction, Jets are going offense first 3 picks. I think they're going to really focus on that side of the ball. So you get Membu, you get Higgins or a receiver, and then maybe you get a tight end in round 3. And you know what, man? It's checking all the boxes. You want to give a fresh offensive coordinator in Engstrom as many weapons. You don't want to, leave Justin Fields out to dry, which, if they take, defensive players high in this draft, it's like, okay, you sign Fields. That's great. What are you really giving him to work with? You have Garrett Wilson. You don't have a wide receiver, a competent wide receiver 2. You have Stone Smart at tight end. You don't have a right tackle unless you think Chugs is the answer there, which I don't believe. I really think they're going to prioritize that side of the ball and focus on defensive tackle in, rounds 4, maybe a safety. You just kind of have to see how the board falls at that point. It's really hard to predict, but I think the defensive positions we need, it's deep in this class for that, and offense isn't that deep in this class. So I think they're going to prioritize that, and I would be happy. I think Jets fans would be happy. Score all the points, get all the hoes. Let's fucking roll.
How could you not? If that was the case, though, man, I'd be so happy. I don't know if there's a Jets fan out there that wouldn't be happy after. I don't even know when the last time the Jets took offense.
They've just been historically a defensive-minded team. So
yeah, that's worked.
It would be that would be a breath of fresh air. Score the points, right? My bold prediction is actually twofold. So I think the Jets will not draft a tight end in the first 3 rounds. And I think they will make a trade for a veteran tight end this on draft weekend. So I think they're going to pass on Warren. And I think the players that they would target at 42, which would be Elijah Arroyo and Mason Taylor, I think they'll be gone. So I think the value at 42 won't be there for them to take the tight end that they want. And then I do think from there, we'll see them maybe take a guy in like the 5th round in a deep class, or maybe the 4th, like Harold Fannin or something like that. And then I think they dip into the the veteran trade market, which at the moment does not look like a bad option. There's Dallas Goedert, there's Michael Mayer, Mark Andrews. Pitts might be on the little bit of the rich side for them because of his age and his potential. But those guys seem like logical options to trade for like a future, like say a 4th next year, something in that range, maybe a 5th this year, something like that. And this will allow them to really go D-tackle, wide receiver, and either tackle or safety with their first 3 picks. So if you told me they were going to hit defensive tackle, wide receiver, tackle, safety, 3 out of those 4, and then trade for a veteran, sign me up for that. I think that seems like a logical play for them, given the people that are available. So we've been talking tight end forever on the pod. Everybody's been talking tight end. Bold prediction, I don't even think they're going to take one. So at least with a high pick. And a smaller bold prediction is I think the Jets won't take a quarterback until at least round 6. I just don't see it being an option for them this year with so many holes on the roster. I think that there will be one of these guys. They're prioritizing Justin Fields. Everything they've done so far seems like that's going to be the move, which is I'm happy that they're doing that. Give him the fair opportunity. And I think we could see like a Quinn Ewers. They also looked at that kid from North Dakota State, I think. They brought him in for a top 30 visit. So I could see them throwing a dart, throwing, a quarterback in the 6th round, something like that. But I don't think it's going to be a high priority.
This wasn't on the agenda, but it just popped into my head like 2 minutes ago, and I wanted to get your raw reaction to this. What would your reaction be if the Jets picked 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds?
In the first 3?
Correct.
Oh,
I mean, this is something that just popped into my head because sometimes when new regimes come in, you have no idea which direction they're going to go. Let's say they really thought that was I don't think that's why it's very bold, but what would your reaction be? Let's just say the first 4 rounds.
Okay.
Well, the Patriots did that years back, right, with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. So I think it would have to be the right complement to each other. But let's just say they took Warren, right? And then they took
Ferguson in the 3rd.
Let's just say, let's say him or Mason Taylor falls. I mean,
I wouldn't be mad. I mean, that means they're going to be running a lot of 12 personnel, right? Or they're going to run the shit. I mean, it makes sense. They'd run the shit out of the ball still, and you need tight ends to do that. So I don't think I'd be mad at it because if they took a tight end, if they did that, that means one of them would have to be a real pass catching threat option. Yeah. So it'd be more of like an H-back than a tight end, and then one would be more of, I would imagine, like an inline blocker.
If they were to do that, Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech, that would be my guy in like round 5. He's a pure blocker. And then if they get like Mason Taylor in round 2, if he it seems like he's going to go in the first round. He's really been, building some steam. There's going to be a lot of tight ends taken early. So that's something to consider. But
maybe if the board fell where like Harold Fannin fell to like the 4th, let's say, something like that, and he was really high on your board and you just couldn't, you're banking on the traits and the upside. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it.
All right.
Well, I would be a little pissed.
Well, we'll see. And like, this is just kind of the stuff that pops into my head is we have a new regime picking, and Jets fans are set on the draft going a very specific way. And then a couple picks happen that you're like, didn't see this coming at all. So you got to think about that kind of stuff as we head, we're 4 days away from the draft.
I've seen weirder shit happen, like the Idzik 12 when he took like 3 or 4 wide receivers and
12 players.
Joe Douglas took James Morgan in the 4th round, like
Captain Morgan.
Weird shit happens, right? So,
well, sorry for getting us off on a 3-minute tangent there. My bold prediction for the Jets is that they don't take a pass catcher until round 3. I don't know how bold that really is because I could see it happening, especially in my scenario where they go Membu and Williams. But someone like me who really thinks that pass catcher is a big need, without taking a Tyler Warren at 7, I really do think that personally, that mock draft was more just how I think they're going to pick. For me personally, I'd love a pass catcher in round 2. I don't think it's going to happen though. Sorry, man. I don't want to ruffle any feathers here. That's why it's bold.
That'll piss off a lot of Jets
oh my God.
But
yeah, that's why we're doing this though. Bold. Yeah. Emphasizing the bold. We're going to do Pat here for the non-Jets bold prediction. We'll go Tony and then me. Pat, start us off.
Non-Jets prediction. This one could easily bite me in the ass and get people riled up. But I think that, and I'm going with a lot of bold shit tonight, I guess. But I think Colston Loveland is going to go before Tyler Warren. I think that they're much closer prospects that they've been made out to be, and I think that if you've been reading a lot of people, like a lot of these analysts have Colston Loveland like right behind Warren, and some of them have him over him. So I think that it's gonna. Why I think that's gonna happen is I think that the Jets will pass on Warren, right? And I think it's gonna come down to the Bears pick at 10, and I just think that they're gonna take Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren. And there, like I said, a lot of scouts think that he's better than Warren at everything. It's just the injury history that's been a little bit of an issue for him, but he's an elite tight end prospect too. He's right up there. So that's my bold prediction.
That'd be wild. Tone?
Imagine they go Loveland over Warren at 7. I think
I wouldn't be mad.
That's insane.
There'd be a lot of angry people. There'd be a
tight
lot.
But then they'd watch the tape and be like, all right, again, that's one of those how many beers segments. So you're going to talk yourself into that one, right? So
a lot. My non-bold Jets prediction, it's bold. My non-Jets bold prediction is Jalen Milroe going in the first. He's going to be at the draft in person. I think he has a commitment from a team in the back end of the first round, whether that be Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, somebody that kind of wants him to sit behind somebody else and learn. I mean, the traits are ridiculous with him. He's a cannon of an arm. He runs a 4.4, 4.5. He's ridiculously athletic. I just think that in the right situation, he could work out long term. And as you see with a lot of these teams, they fall in love with traits. And when someone's that athletic, you can kind of ignore some of the stuff that they show on tape. And it's almost like I can fix him type of thing. So I think that Jalen Milroe, he wouldn't come to the draft if he's a third-round pick. That's not going to happen. It's either top of the second, but I'm going to predict he's going to one of Pittsburgh or Los Angeles in the back half of the first round.
Barely talked about it on this podcast, but I love Jalen Milroe. I really do. Like if he dropped, I would love to take him. But all right, we don't have to
get into it.
That's fine. But I didn't mean to open a can of worms. I've been going off topic a lot.
Honestly, you're stealing my my player that I want.
All right, so I will finish it off here with the bold predictions. I'll say that Jackson Dart goes top 10 and he goes before Shedeur Sanders. I think they're very close as prospects, and I think that Dart might be ranked a little bit higher by most teams. Again, I could totally see maybe like Shedeur's there, and all of a sudden there's the draft night, the camera does the thing where it starts panning to the player that you didn't think that was going to happen. I think it was going to be Dart. I think Dart goes 9 to the Saints, and Shedeur falls a little bit. So that's my bold prediction, and that wraps that up. So let's put a bow on it here. Who is your best case scenario at 7? Who do you want? Sometimes we do these mocks. It's not all about personally what we want. You go into it saying, let's run this scenario. Let's run this scenario. Pat, what's your just gold scenario?
I'm going to kind of make like 2 here. So at 7, I think I would want Armand Membu or a tackle just because I really want them to just put a bow on this offensive line. I would love for them to start a new regime with a really good offensive line. And whenever they do address the quarterback position for the future, like Tony brought it up earlier, like drafting for the future years, right? Like if they address the quarterback position next year in a hopefully loaded class, you're not going to sit there, you're going to sit there and say, okay, couple weapons and, we're sitting behind a really good offensive line. It'll be a good situation to bring in a quarterback too. So I would say probably Membu for that. And just for like the chaos and who I want, I would love to see them get Jalen Milroe somehow. Like, I'm not saying it's 7, obviously, but I would love to see them like, just for the chaos that would ensue with that. But trading back up from like 42 or just taking him at 42 if he was there and just throwing this whole Jets draft into an absolute frenzy would be amazing. But at the same time, like you just brought up everything. Like I love his traits. I would love to see that guy sit for a year or two and be a developmental quarterback because I just think his abilities that he has as a runner and a deep ball thrower, you just don't see those often, and he would be really fun for us to have. So, and again, I'm an agent of chaos with the Jets, and sometimes I just like to watch the world burn. So I would love to see the world burn with the Jets draft in that regard. So that's my selfish picks.
Tony?
Wow. I mean, that would be, you have people arguing about 5th round pick Jordan Travis if they take Milroe in the 2nd round. I mean, Jesus Christ!
Like that just what would ensue if they did that?
Be
a quarterback at 42 in general, or a trade up would just be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, damn. Ideally at 7, It's Armand. I've been saying this. I mean, I feel like I'm a broken record. It's Armand Membu. I want him. I think he's exactly like Pat said. It's setting up the foundation for a quarterback in 2026, or you're building around Justin Fields, and you give him just the best possible offensive line. A lot of Fields' one of his biggest weaknesses is that he takes a lot of sacks, and a lot of that's his fault. So if you give him as much time possible and you use the rest of your picks on like pass catchers and guys that can, make plays, I just think that would be setting him up, or a quarterback in 2026, the in the best possible situation. We've seen Sam Darnold get killed behind bad offensive lines. We've seen Zach Wilson get killed behind bad offensive lines. I don't want Justin Fields to come in here and be running around because, a core of four is letting TJ Watt absolutely destroy him all day. I'd rather have two bookend tackles for the next decade, that if Membu works out and Olu continues on the trajectory that he's on. And in round two, it's one of these pass catchers, man. I need somebody to fall. My favorite day of the draft is the second day because it's a lot less predictable. There's a lot of guys, you kind of like know their names pretty well. You might have watched some tape on them and you watch them fall and it's like, come on, like make it to that pick. It's one of my favorite things to do. And it happens in day 3 too. But that would be my dream scenario. Just build the freaking offense. I mean, we've seen bad offenses for long enough. Like I said, score the points. That's it.
Shocker, I'm taking Membu here. I think that, for me, my dream scenario is to build that offensive line to the fullest. I also think that from what I want and how I look at the new regime and how I look at Aaron Glenn, I feel like he's not going to do anything, and I'm saying him because I really do feel like he is a strong hand in the draft along with Darren Muji. He seems very level-headed. It seems like he's not going to get cute with the 7th pick. I think anyone outside of Warren or Membu with, if the 1 through 6 is kind of chalk, is getting kind of cute. Like if Mason Graham's gone and you take another defensive tackle there, like a Shamar Stewart, or you go a route like a Jalen Walker, even though I think he's going to be a really good player, I'm not really sure that would fit the bill at 7 with the priority of some of the needs that we have. So I think Membu is the guy that I want and the guy that I ultimately think the Jets will take at number 7. Man, I hope I'm not wrong. I hope it's either one of Membu or Warren.
Yeah, I mean, look, we haven't obviously given Warren his enough love tonight.
We will with pods this week.
Yeah, and look, he would be a really fun pick for the Jets, and he would be instantly a fan favorite, and he would open up the offense a lot. So I'm not necessarily saying like I don't want Tyler Warren. My gut tells me it's going to go in a different direction.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like I don't think all three of us would be thrilled if we got Tyler Warren, and I don't want people to think or make it out to be that we don't want Tyler Warren at 7. I think it's just a personal preference at that point. If you want to shore up the offensive line with a plug-and-play right tackle, or if you want to get an elite pass catcher who could also block on the offensive line, I think it truly is personal preference, and it's going to come down to what the coaching staff thinks they could utilize best.
The doomsday scenario, and I know you guys kind of talked about this a little bit on the last week's spot, but like the doomsday is, I think, like Shamar Stewart. Like if they just took Shamar Stewart and banked on trades, man, people would be up in arms. Jalen Walker, like I could get behind that, and I think that fans would get behind that because of his versatility and his ability to rush the passer and kind of be like a Micah Parsons type. But man, Shamar Stewart would be like you'd be taking like John Franklin Myers with the 7th pick, and people would be flipping their birds. So, yeah. But anyway, that would be my doomsday. At least I know you guys talked about that. So,
Tony, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, that would be. We talked about that. I don't want to talk about Shamar Stewart anymore.
Right,
if we draft him, we'll talk about him. But I'm praying we don't. He seems like a middle of the round like swing for I don't think he's a bad pick at like 15. It's a weaker class. If you want to bank on trades, go for it.
2 guys we're not talking about anymore: Aaron Rodgers and Shamar Stewart.
Thank God. Put that stuff to bed. At least with the Rodgers
stuff. It's a bunch of bullshit.
We won't even get into it.
Fuck him.
Yes, to that point, yes. To lay out the rest of the week for you guys, we have an awesome episode dropping Thursday morning for the draft. Is that kind of what we've decided on here?
Yeah, we're
with our
doing
guest?
draft props. Yeah, we got a really good special guest. I want to leave it as a surprise for now because it's a good one. But he's a good friend of mine, and he's gonna really bring the noise. But
Yeah.
we're gonna focus solely on draft props, help you guys make some money. Hopefully, we'll make some money too, and really hammer that stuff out. Which is, I think, is gonna be a great episode. So
Yeah. He's fantastic at that. So
yeah,
and then I think Wednesday we're dropping a Tyler Warren little film breakdown. We doesn't get enough love around here, so we're going to dedicate an episode to Tyler Warren. There's a very strong chance he's the pick at 7. We want to give you guys a little bit more of what to expect with him from somebody that actually played at Penn State. It's going to be a good episode.
Yes, I totally forgot about that too. And then we're obviously going to be dropping stuff every day with the draft and who we pick up. So it's going to be a busy week for us, and hopefully give you guys a ton of great content to listen to every day and watch if you're watching on YouTube. Pat, I saw you. Did you have something to say there in terms of what Tony said? Oh, okay.
No.
I thought you did. Any final thoughts from you two before I close out? Give out the Instagram or the not Instagram, Twitter handle and stuff like that.
Finally here, man. It's gonna be a busy week for the pod. Super exciting. Like you guys said, we're gonna be having episodes almost every day this week, which is gonna test our stamina a little bit, but I'm excited for it. And it's like I'm ready for the draft to get started, but I'm also ready just to know who the hell we have on this team. So done speculating.
Let's not take this time for granted, though. It's awesome anticipating this. And once it's all done, it's like, all right, damn it, we have to wait another year for this. And it's going to be interesting. Usually we're just spectators. I'll use my little Twitter fingers, give my opinions, but, actually podcasting, pumping out content on this stuff, it's a first for all three of us, and it's going to be pretty damn fun.
Yeah. With that being said, make sure to follow us on Twitter to stay tuned with all the updates and short form clips at NYJ_VulturesRow. Finally, the draft is here. And like Tony said, though, once this is gone, we hit a real dead period up until, minicamp, OTAs, voluntary workouts, all the good stuff. I mean, the only thing we really have to look forward to after that is schedule release, which can't wait for that too. That's
jersey numbers,
schedule release, all the slow stuff. But that's up to us to make the content good, and that's why we're here. So we do appreciate you listening. That does it for episode 8, and we will see you guys pretty soon. Go Jets.